My name is Don McNeil. I'm the person who has been designated as the chair of this organization. The task force itself was created pursuant to House Joint Resolution number 65. And by way of filling the time, I will read that to you so we all clearly understand what our mandate is. It reads as follows: whereas Governor Quinn and members of the General Assembly have proposed changes in the benefits that are offered to public employees who are members of state-funded pension systems, and whereas 78% of all public employees in Illinois do not receive Social Security, and whereas the retirement benefits provided by the teachers' retirement system of the state of Illinois, the state universities' retirement system, and the state employees' retirement system of Illinois are the primary source of retirement security for public employees, and whereas the state of Illinois has a duty to thoroughly discuss and analyze the effects of any changes made to the current systems, therefore be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 96th General Assembly of the state of Illinois, the Senate concurring herein, that there is created the Pension System Modernization Task Force. That's us. And be it further resolved that the task force shall be charged with the following tasks. 1, analyze the public policy implications of changing pension benefits on the state of Illinois' ability to attract and retain public employees, teachers, and university professionals. 2, analyze the level of the current pension benefit structure in Illinois as it compares to other states in the geographical region and to other states that have systems that are not coordinated with Social Security. 3, analyze the level of benefit programs currently being offered in the private sector of our state. 4, analyze the long-term costs of our current systems, including the expected increase in benefit payments, the effects of continued underperformance in the fund's investment portfolio, and the effects of increasing life expectancies on our state-funded systems. And 5, analyze which pension benefits in Illinois should be modernized. And be it further resolved that the task force shall be composed of the following. We'll go through the names of those folks who are here today shortly. Resolved that the staff of the Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability shall be responsible for staffing the task force in conjunction with the Illinois Pension System's actuaries and staff. That's where our support comes from. But that doesn't mean that anybody's precluded from getting support from any constituency that's willing to help them accomplish the goals of the task force. Resolved that the task force shall hold meetings on pension modernization no less than 1 per month between June of 2009 and October of 2009. And be it further resolved that the task force shall recommend pension benefit changes to modernize these systems. And be it further resolved that the task force shall report its findings to the General Assembly and the Governor on or before November 1st, 2009.
My name is David Vaught. Governor Quinn asked me to come over and give what help I could give. So feel free to contact any of us if you need more information or assistance. The governor here is an advocate of pension reform. He supports Senate Bill 1292, that's the current, I clicked the button already, that is currently pending in the House. We'll get to that in a minute. But we just wanted to indicate, and you've got a copy of these slides in your handout, that the governor called for addressing and recognized the underfunding of the public pension systems as an enormous problem. This is a problem that didn't develop overnight. It's been developing for years. The numbers are scary sounding numbers. 55 billion was the number he used in the budget speech. I think that number has grown with changes in the market, although I haven't gotten a recent valuation. But we all know this is a very substantial problem of the underfunding of our pension system, and that we've been characterized as one of the most poorly funded public pension systems in the nation. There are consequences if we fail to resolve the problem, and the governor mentioned 3 in the speech. The disruption of the lives of retirees. If our system, as he said in the speech, were to go bust. We think it has an indirect impact on our state as well. And the whole idea of piling public debt on public debt is not a good one. We know that the pension liability is a form of public debt already. We had the most recent numbers at the time of the budget speech, and I don't think other numbers are more current, But as of June 30th, 2008, we were 54.3% underfunded, and the unfunded liability as of the end of 2008 was at $73 billion. This, as this number compounds against us, is an increasing stress on the state budget. And you know, the debate about critical services in healthcare, education, and public safety, as opposed to funding the pension system, is already underway. The governor also is concerned about the lack of uniformity in the 5 systems as to benefit and other differences in the system. The governor's reform did not call for a change in existing benefits. Existing benefits, of course, can always be raised under the Constitution. It's lowering that's the problem. So the Constitution sets a floor, not a ceiling, on benefits. But he has never proposed that those current benefits be changed. He did propose, then took off the table the idea of perhaps they should contribute more money. And he considers that that's still an issue for this commission to discuss if it wishes to. But he did propose that newly hired employees be part of a modernized system with a higher retirement age, more like that you find in Social Security or in some other state systems, a better match to other systems, and a capping of cost of living increases. Our cost of living increases that we currently have that compound are not the norm in the governor's view, nor are they affordable. The action, just to review the course, the governor's bill what he advocated was incorporated by Representative McCarthy, who serves on this task force, as House Amendments number 1 and 2 to Senate Bill 1292. The governor supports that reform. It's had a few tweaks, and there may be a few more that get done, but he supports that reform in total and still believes in it very much. It did pass the Pension and Personnel Committee on 6-4 party line vote. The governor had certainly hoped that there would be bipartisan support for this kind of reform, at least as reflected in that committee vote. There was not. Many of us in this room at the time of those hearings, I know I testified, others here testified, pro and con on that bill when we had the hearing on I don't think the hearing was actually on the 14th. It may have been a couple days earlier, but and we had a series of meetings after that committee hearing that I believe in reality you would say led to the formation of this task force. So that's really part of the background. We have a copy of House Amendments 1 and 2 in your packet, so you've got the actual language on that. It's lawyers love it. The rest of us go, oh my heavens, well I'm a lawyer too, but so I guess I'm supposed to love it. But it's a hard read. We've got some summaries as well in the materials we furnished you. This is just a quote from what Don already read on the joint resolution. We wanted to get into an update as well. You have a handout. This thing is jumping the slides. You have a handout in your handout called Pension Obligation Notes. It's a one-pager. It has a little flow chart down at the bottom, and it has a preliminary draft term sheet. This is a proposal that's been being discussed in recent appropriate directors meetings and leaders meetings between the governor and the legislative leaders as a possible solution to the state's budgetary problems for fiscal 10. It's being discussed only in the context of fiscal 10, not as a permanent or a repetitive idea as this is structured. But the governor, as some of you may remember, proposed normal cost funding this year in his budget because of the state's lack of cash. The existing continuing resolution would provide for, and these are GRF numbers here, we're talking about when we say $2.2 billion, but over $4 billion is the required payment under the existing law. So the $2.2 billion is the difference between normal cost and that required number. This proposal is one to use notes, essentially IOUs, to the pension fund by privately placing marketable notes. These are notes that would be rated They would have CUSIPs and be completely tradable, and they would be notes that the pension funds, in their own discretion, could reduce to cash at whatever point they wished. So they're a substitute for transferring cash to the pension funds that will result in the same amount of cash being available to the funds in fiscal 10 as under full funding. But of course, because they're notes, the state would pay those notes back over 5 years to the holders of the notes with maturities out to 5 years. A pension obligation note with that short maturity has a lower interest rate than a longer-term bond. So I wanted to mention that to you because it's being discussed. The governor would certainly love to see that acted on next week in the special session. Whether the legislature in its wisdom and the leaders want to pursue that, of course, is a question for legislation, because this proposal would require legislation to authorize these notes. The next slide concerns a bill that did pass the Senate, and this is presented as background information. It did not do very well in the House. I see Steve Zahn shaking his head. It failed in House Exec. It got 1 vote, I think, Steve, in House Exec. But it's in your packet. I'll mention it. This is the more full-blown proposal Senator Harmon made a couple years ago for a larger pension obligation bond. We believe, and the governor believes, you have a number of issues to discuss, and you can certainly define how you want to discuss those and what those are. But one is, should two-tier be adopted in 2009? It's out of committee in the House. It's a bill that could certainly be addressed later this year. We've already talked about the question of the existing ramp payment schedule and and there's been mention that whether it really satisfies the actuarial liability. There are proposals about whether or not those actuarial payments should be smoothed after we have very large market dislocations like we've just had. And there's also discussion that we hear and the governor's hears about whether those payment schedules should be amended. You've already talked about in your committee discussion whether asset infusions, pension notes or bonds might be considered by some an asset infusion. They might be considered by some the opposite of that. But those are ways that the existing liability, which already exists and is beyond the capacity of the state to solve in an instant, would be refinanced in some way. We believe that there also is a question in some people's mind whether the task force's purpose is to either finalize two-tier as it's currently proposed or close to it's currently proposed, or whether it is to negotiate and try to work out a different approach. There is an issue in the way the two-tier proposal is structured about whether the new tier of employees, the new employees, would, by their contributions that are proposed in that bill, pay most of the new tier cost, which sort of sets up the contract question whether the state payments under two-tier would then go mostly to pay down the existing liability if the employees in the new tier are paying most of their own cost for their liability. We believe this issue is here, and I'm glad you've decided to have a collective bargaining committee, because it is possible to negotiate increases in existing employee contributions. I believe that's happened in the past, historically, and most people think that would be a collective bargaining item, not a legislative item that would be imposed, although there are some differences of opinion legally on that question as well. The other question that we want to be prepared to assist on, along with COGFA and others in the pension systems, and we just lost our slide, is if you need additional research and information, we'll be happy to do our part to provide that. Some of it is complicated, some of it takes time to generate, but we'll be happy to do that. And we're sure the chairman will take up these other issues, and you already have taken up these other issues. So that's our introduction. We just meant this as an introduction, not as a, any kind of a final statement from the governor. He welcomes your work and believe, given the already the give and take that's occurring here, that this can be very productive for the people in our state. So he wants to thank you for being willing to serve. We know you're all not very highly paid for serving on this commission, and he appreciates that sense of volunteer service. I'll be happy to take other questions if you've got them that we haven't already covered.